This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet world, West Alabama. How are you doing right here on this wonderful Thursday afternoon? This is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. I, of course, am Joe Gaither. You can follow me at Joe Gaither6 on all your social media platforms, whether you're on X or Facebook or Snapchat, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you like, at Joe Gaither6. We're a proud part of the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network, along with our friends Blue Collar Unplugged, Blake Byler, Matthew Gibson, and Jacob Pickle. Those guys bringing you all things Alabama basketball, and together we make up the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network. We want to encourage you to follow us at BamaCentral, BamaCentral SI on Instagram, at BamaCentral on X, and at Alabama Crimson Tide on Sports Illustrated on Facebook, as we are the Sports Illustrated home for your Alabama Crimson Tide. So we're going to have a little bit of fun this afternoon. We're going to do a double episode on Thursday. Yes, we're going to talk a little bit today about Alabama basketball, about Ryan Grubb, and about Brad Bohannon. But tonight at 9 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be joined by Amari Jefferson. Yeah, Amari Jefferson. Goodness gracious. I don't know why I just had a brain fart. Wide receiver out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's going to join us to talk about his visit right here. He came to visit Tuscaloosa for an official visit. Basically, look, if you know Amari's story, he already is committed, signed with Alabama. He's going to be a summer enrollee, but he was able to come on an official visit to meet Kalen DeBoer and to see if the new coaching staff, how he vibed with the new coaching staff. So tonight at 9 p.m., you're going to be able to see that right there on all our social medias, and we'll, of course, put it out there on BamaCentral.com as well and on the BamaCentral YouTube channel. That's going to be later on tonight at 9. Let's talk about last night. Oh, my gosh, pulling teeth. Did everybody enjoy their time in the dentist chair watching Alabama and Georgia in Stegman Coliseum? Alabama wins 85-76. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about rumors going around with Ryan Grubb. Oh, gosh, is Alabama already going to lose its offensive coordinator? And then we will talk about Brad Bohannon, as Brad Bohannon's NCAA case is all but virtually settled at this point. Let's start with the basketball last night. And, of course, we invite you to jump in and comment on the show at Joe Gaither6 on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. You can find us right there and be a part of the show. If you hear something you like, you don't like, you have a question, comment, query, and complaint, you can jump in right there. But Alabama wins 85-76, and it was about as ugly of a game as you can imagine. But goodness gracious. It took me through the wave of emotions, analytically speaking. Alabama was 0 for 9 from the three-point line and really was getting beat up on the offensive glass through the early part of the game. Alabama was, down 17-2, down, 14, 15 points right off the bat. And so you took a 14-point deficit into halftime. And there's really big stakes here because Florida beat Kentucky last night in overtime. Coach Cal, what are you doing? Not fouling up 3 late. You saw the rest of the results in the SEC break your way this week. We talked about South Carolina's win over Tennessee on Tuesday night with Mason Woods on the program yesterday. So everything in the midweek broke your way. Obviously, you didn't expect to get any help from Vanderbilt going into the jungle, and you didn't. Auburn wins. Okay, so your top 4 teams in the league are all two of the top 4 teams lose. So South Carolina beats Tennessee, Kentucky loses to Florida. And so you really need to take advantage of playing a team. Georgia was 78 in KenPom, so that's kind of their ranking. Not a terrible team, definitely improved. It's a quad 2 win for Alabama, but it's a game that is on your schedule. You expect to win. You see Mike White, second-year coach. You see them doing big, improving. But Georgia is still Georgia. They were They came in last night to last night's game at 4-2 in the league. They gave Tennessee a little bit of a scare, but ultimately lost that. They just don't have enough depth or so, enough talent to really be as competitive as they want to be in the SEC. but they still have enough talent to really scare you if you play poorly, if you don't play with the intensity that you need to. And so that's kind of what you saw a little bit last night. I mean, yeah, Alabama just missed some shots in the first part of the game. 0 for 9 from the three-point line. That's not accurate. It's not really who Alabama is on a night in, night out basis. But I was really impressed with, okay, the threes aren't falling, and the second half kind of got going, and it was Aaron Estrada, it was Mark Sears, and it was Grant Nelson getting to the hole. Most notably, Aaron Estrada. Aaron Estrada he wasn't the leading scorer for Alabama last night. He only ended up with 11 points, but his points all kind of came in the middle portion, in the middle portion of the game, in the middle portion of the second half when everything was kind of tight. He makes a layup at 16:38 in the second half. He makes a jumper at 15:19 in the second half. He gets himself an assist right at the 13-minute mark. He gets another assist at the 10:30 mark. He makes 2 free throws with 6 and change left. So, like, he scores what? 1, 2, 5, 4, 6. Yeah, his second, 6 points in the second half when Alabama was really not, needed to get some confidence, needed to get a spark. And I thought that Aaron Estrada was that spark. Now, ultimately, the game was about Mark Sears and Grant Nelson. I mean, Mark Sears, one of the best guards in the country. We talked a lot this week about the disrespect that he's gotten. Mark Sears ultimately ends up leading Alabama again and leading all scorers in the game. 23 points, 4 of 4 from the line, 3 of 5 from the three-point line. Mark, in the first half was not so hot. What was it? Only 4 points in the first half, and he was 0 for 1 from the three-point line. Mark has the last 2 games really started kind of slowly and finished with a fury. I wonder if that's kind of been a little bit of a coaching point to Mark to kind of let get the other guys involved early, get the other guys involved. No, it didn't really work out last night in Athens because you ended up scoring one of your lowest points, one of your lowest first half points. 27 points is I think I saw was the third lowest points and a half in the Nate Oates era. So not good. But you ended up with 58 second half points. Absolutely, lights out basketball in the second half. I was really impressed with Alabama in the second half. You look at Georgia. Look, their first half, they scored 1.2 points per possession. Their second half, they cut them down to 1. Alabama, on the other hand, you ended up with 0.8 in the first half. But then your second half, oh my gosh, this is the ceiling. This is the ceiling of the Alabama offense. 1.7 points per possession in the second half. That's ridiculous. That's insane. And a lot of it, I mean, you're 16 of 22 on layups. You got to the hole. You got 8 fast break points. You scored 9 second chance points. You ended up 10 points off turnovers in the second half. You got out into transition a little bit. You protected the basketball. Only three turnovers in the second half for Alabama. So really, look, going to Georgia, people can say on the schedule, oh, Georgia stinks. They're not good. But it's a big win. It's a really important win for Alabama to, have the maturity. And yes, if you follow me on the Twitter machine, you saw me tweet immature in the first half because I thought the effort was a bit immature in the first half, a little bit lackadaisical in the first half. And I wonder what went into the start. There's a lot of little factors, and you can call some of them silly if you want to, and some of them absolutely are silly, but when you stack them all together, how do they affect the start? First thing that I thought of was 5:30. I mean, it's easy for me to flip on the television, but most of the guys, they're used to playing around 6, 7, 7:30, 5:30, a little bit of an odd start time. All right, maybe that's not that big of a deal, but it's a little bit of an earlier start time than maybe the guys are typically used to. You can say that's no big deal, and I'll say, yeah, you're probably right. Then you have the weirdness happening in pregame. Weirdness happening pregame with Ryan Griffin and was it Latrell Wright? So Ryan Griffin was stuck in an elevator, and so you get guys. Look. Is it a big deal that they spent 5 minutes in an elevator where they were expecting to get off and somebody had to reset the elevator and get them, out of the elevator shaft and onto the arena floor for pregame warm-ups? No, it's not that big of a deal. I'm sure they didn't spend a whole lot of time. I'm sure that wasn't a whole mental but Have you been stuck in an elevator before? I've been stuck in an elevator before, and that's a little bit weary. It's just a little bit anxious. I wonder how that affected the team. So there's two factors right there. Now, number three, Davin Cosby did not make the trip. Davin Cosby, you can throw back in my face, oh, he's not a premier player for Alabama, and that's true. But when Davin is on offensively, Davin's got a hell of a shot. And Davin apparently has been playing better defensively, and you saw that. You saw him get a lot of minutes on Saturday against LSU. So Davin doesn't make the trip because he's sick. So you're down a scholarship body. You got to remember, Alabama only 12 scholarship bodies already because you didn't fill all 13. That's the NATO's roster management. Okay, so now you're down to 11. Not a big deal. You're still fine. Oh, Nick Pringle gets himself suspended. Golly, Nick Pringle. You need, if there's anybody you don't need to get suspended, it's any of those front court guys. Are they all... are any of them the best front court player in the SEC? No. None of them are going to win awards to be, they're not going to beat John I. Broom, but your front court depth is really, really poor this year. And so to suspend Nick Pringle for a conduct detrimental to the team, it's a bold move for NATO. You obviously have to do that from a coaching standpoint for whatever the reason is. I hear that they don't get along very much, that they've got a little differences eye to eye per se. And that's not the end of the world, but you can't be fighting with your coach. And if you're the coach and y'all are arguing, you got to sometimes lay down the law to ensure that you are still the coach and still the authority figure. Okay, we're stacking issues. Then you got to go into exactly DC capstone report. David Cottingham chiming in on X, and you can as well. You can follow DC capstone report right there at David Cott underscore 50, I think is what it was. But make sure you follow his podcast as well, as he's talking all things Alabama football and basketball, and really all things Alabama athletics. David chiming in. Georgia is a lot better team than they were 2 years ago. It was a big road win. He also commented earlier, Alabama played poorly at times, but was still able to win with defense in the last 10 minutes of the game. I like the dynamic with Nelson at the 5 and 4 guards, Sears, Estrada, Griffin, and Reitzel. I think that allows the Sears and Nelson two-man game. And David, you're exactly right. I really appreciate you commenting today. You're absolutely right. You start with the 5 and you end with You've had this small lineup the last couple of games, partly due to maybe suspensions and playing time for Nick Pringle, and partly due to Coach Oates has talked about, we started off slowly. We started off poorly. They certainly started off poorly in Athens, but they started really well against LSU, and especially in the second half. But he mentions the defense in the last 10 minutes. Look, Georgia is not a prolific offensive basketball team, but exactly like you said, they are a better basketball team than they have been the last 2 years. Coach Mike White has been really improving that roster, hammering the transfer portal, recruiting his tail off, and they're a better basketball team. Will Georgia make the tournament? They're going to end up on the bubble right there in the 70s. They're going to maybe they can catch a big win or two down the line, but the defense the last 10, 15 minutes, Alabama cut it to 9 or so with 15 minutes left. And then Georgia struck it back, spread it back out to 14 or so. And I thought, oh, dang, there was the momentum right there for Alabama. That was the momentum kind of break that Alabama needed to avoid. And then, Grant Nelson and the boys basically dug back in and started to chip away at the lead. You've got to give the guys a lot of credit, because while most of people, the average fan's going to see, you beat Georgia, good job, they were unranked, they're no good, blah, blah, blah. To be down 14 points on the road at halftime and to cut it a little bit and then have the lead stretch back out with 2 fewer scholarship players, and you can debate whether you want how important Nick Pringle or Davin Cosby are to this club, but 2 fewer bodies is 2 fewer bodies. It's a really important win. It's based on what else happened in the SEC. You're going to have Tennessee going to Kentucky later on Saturday. It's a really important win. You now have a full game lead over South Carolina and over Auburn in the conference standings. And okay, you want to play tiebreakers. You have the tiebreaker over both South Carolina and Auburn. And so where I was 2 weeks ago after the Tennessee loss, thinking, oh my gosh, there's no way this team wins the league. Oh my gosh, they're just going to have to get hot in March and get on a run. you got to give credit to Coach Oates tinkering with the lineup. You got to give credit to Mark Sears being the steady Eddie. You got to give credit to Grant Nelson and Aaron Estrada and their perseverance through SEC play. I think Grant, we talked about it after the Auburn game, after the Iron Bowl basketball, his 12 points in the second half that really kept Alabama right there in front. The two big dunks in the second half, the physicality that he found. Look, I think that Grant has taken that second half and carried it through to LSU and to the Georgia game. And I think he's, finding where he fits in this team. As David said, maybe that stretch five is his best position, and really how he can be effective for the team. I look, people have been talking about, Grant is such a disappointment, and he hasn't been what you've wanted him to be, but there has been steady growth. There, in the early part of the season, I thought this kid can't play defense to save his life. He doesn't have an ounce of toughness, and he's going to struggle. And he did struggle. But over the last 3-4 weeks, his defensive intensity really standing out against Mississippi State and Tolu Smith 3 weeks ago. His defensive effort has really improved and really manifested itself into, hey, coach, I might be struggling on the offensive end, but you can still count on me to give 100%. And you can still count on me to, stand in there and bang with bodies that might be bigger than I am. And I'm going to rebound as best I can. Grant's been a great story, in my opinion, of improvement through the year. And so you see him get a hold of the defensive end. And now over the last 3 or so games, he's starting to really look. You don't need Grant to score 25 points for this basketball team. No, you need him to score that 9 to 14. Give me that 9 to 14, and boom, you're cooking with gas at that point. If you have Grant Nelson make the 2 3-point shots that he made last night, and golly, I'll be honest, I'm sitting there watching it on the couch, and he's the first 3-pointer, he clutched a second, and he thought about it, and I thought, oh my God, you're open for a reason. Don't shoot it. Don't shoot it. Don't shoot it. I'm sitting there like, pass it off. Don't take that shot. Oh, and I really was thinking drive, get to the hole and get to the free throw line, because his, conversion rate at the free throw line is 90, 95%. He is killing it at the free throw line. So I'm sitting there like, go, don't shoot. And he double clutches and then shoots the shot, and the high arcing rainbow, boom, bottom of the net. And I'm thinking, wow, I mean, you made a 3-point shot. That's his first make from 3 in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks of games. The last time he made a 3-point shot, it was against Missouri at home in Coleman Coliseum. So you go back-to-back threes in the second half to basically seal the deal. I don't want to, look, I don't think this is a number 1 overall seed. I don't think this might be a national championship level team. I don't think so. But I do see the growth in the team. I do see the improvement in the team. I do see everything's lining up for this team and their passing test. Now, are they getting 100s? No, but we're the passing test. And at this point, look, you're not quite to the survive and advance, but there's a little element of survive and advance, especially when you play on the road in the SEC. So last night, you beat Georgia 85-76, overcome a 14-point halftime deficit. Now, you were expected what? You were a 6.5-point favorite. You ended up covering wild. Everybody who was gambling on Alabama in the early part of the game was probably losing their mind, but you ended up covering. Wild. You got to give a lot of credit to the guys, to the coaching staff, really banding together, digging in and saying, you know what? We don't need to be losing this game because of, conference standings and where things fall. But finding a way in the second half. Coach Nate Oates after the game basically saying, guys in the huddle, hey, yeah, I think we can win. And Coach Nate Oates grabbing everybody saying, no, we can win. We will win. And this is how we're going to do it. So really impressed with the guys. You're going to see them again on Saturday against Mississippi State. It's going to be a lot of fun being in Coleman Coliseum. I hope you're able to get in there yourself. I know you've been reading online this week that the game is sold out, but go to your third-party ticket websites and get yourselves into Coleman Coliseum to cheer on the Crimson Tide as they look to make it 4 games in a row. They've won 9 out of their last 10. They win on Saturday. They're going to jump from 24 in the poll to 15, 16. They're going to jump up. They're going to take a nice little bit of jump up in the poll. And so everybody disrespecting the Tide is going to start to see over the next couple of weeks, the growth in this team manifesting itself into positive results. All right, let's talk a little football because you guys all love football and I love football too. And yes, no, it's not football season now, but weird news today. Weird news. Not good. You can read about it on BamaCentral.com right now. My man Matthew Gibson wrote a piece. Is Ryan Grubb going to go back to Seattle? Offensive coordinator for Alabama? Is he going to have offensive coordinator for the Crimson Tide for 15 days on his resume? Oh, this would not be a good thing for Alabama. Now, obviously, you want the best things for the people, and if this is the best move for Ryan Grubb and his family, then more power to you, bud. But what you're hearing right now, look, if you don't follow the NFL, that is A-okay. I understand. I'm not here to convince you of that. But here's the news and how it ties together. The Seattle Seahawks hired Mike McDonald, not McDaniel, Mike McDonald. That's going to be really confusing. The Dolphins coach, Mike McDaniel, and the Seattle Seahawks coach, Mike McDonald. Okay, so Mike McDonald comes from the Ravens. He gets hired as the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, new head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and he is a defense-first guy, and so he needs an offensive coordinator. And it sounds like, according to Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio, who, look, is Mike a little bit of a spray and pray kind of a guy? Yes, he is. But Mike definitely has connections. So there's got to be some sort of, well, maybe he's considering Ryan Grubb. Yeah, there's got to be some sort of comments that made him come out with this. But Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio came out and said this morning, Thursday, that Ryan Grubb could be joining Mike McDonald as offensive coordinator. Now, Ryan Grubb does not have any NFL experience. All his experiences are pretty much with Coach Kalen DeBoer. South Dakota State, Sioux Falls, Eastern Michigan, Fresno State, over in Washington. And I think that he's a hell of an offensive coordinator. Yes, David is exactly right. And you're leading to where he says, I could be dead wrong on this, but I don't see a first-time young defensive-minded head coach hiring an offensive coordinator with no NFL experience. Look, that's exactly right. Because the Seahawks are looking to, hey, we've got a young roster. I think that they think that they're ready to win. They're a little bit in rebuilding. They want to see what they got with Geno Smith, and they got a bunch of young weapons, a bunch of wide receivers that are young and talented, a bunch of running backs that are young and talented. You didn't really see enough out of Jackson Smith and Jigba this past season, and you obviously want more from DK Metcalf. But look. We wrote the story on BamaCentral.com because it's newsworthy and related to Ryan Grubb. My opinions of Mike Florio are not very high. We'll just say that. Well, I think that he is, obviously, he's built himself a great brand, but I think that, I said it earlier, spray and pray. I'm going to spray out some information, and I'm going to pray it comes true. I'm going to spray out some information, and it might be not fabricated. I'm not going to say not fabricated, but not, look, I don't think that Ryan Grubb's on the phone with Mike McDonald right now hashing out contract terms. I think that Mike Florio saw a brand new head coach and says, hey, he needs an offensive coordinator. Let's start talking about offensive coordinator candidates. Oh, just like David says, I do see why he would be considered based on his ties to the area. Oh, let's think about hot young offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb is from Seattle, or he spent the last 2 years in Seattle. Oh, yeah, he's only been in Alabama a couple of weeks. Maybe it's the right time for him to make that jump to the NFL. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that this is, look, McDonald needs an offensive coordinator, but I'll be real surprised at this point if you've gone 2 weeks into recruiting, you're at the new job, and you say, you know what, bleep this, I'm going back to Seattle. Like, there's certainly something to be said about liking one area of the country or another, and while I absolutely love West Alabama, Seattle's a cool place, so that might be a draw. I just don't see a guy, look, is Ryan Grubb an up-and-coming offensive coordinator? Yes, absolutely. Is he ready to be an NFL offensive coordinator? I don't know about that. But he has certainly proven himself at the previous stops. Is he thinking, I need to get outside of the Coach DeBoer shadow? Maybe. I don't know, Coach Grubb. But all this to say, and all this to wrap it in a nutshell, I think the story is a little bit of a bunch of hooey. I think that it's a little bit of a let's draw straws and see what kind of connections we can make to Mike McDaniel. Let's see what kind of connections we can make to Seattle. And I think that's how you end up with, hey, he's under consideration. Because that was the report. The report was Ryan Grubb is under consideration for Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator. Well, look, I have Sydney. How can I put this the nicest way possible? Sydney Sweeney, she's under consideration for being my wife. What? Like, I can say anything. Like, oh, I'm under consideration. I'm considering buying a Lamborghini. I'm considering, I could consider anything, but if I don't have the money to buy that Lamborghini, or if the wife example, if Sydney Sweeney's not interested in me, I don't see that happening. So look, while Ryan Grubb might be under consideration for the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator job, I do think that's true. I don't know how much mutual interest there really is. I don't know how realistic that will be. And who else is under consideration for Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator job? Come on, you're Alabama fans or you're SEC fans or your football fans. What's one of the biggest fan bases in the country? If we can tie anything to Alabama, media, sports folks, journalists, they're going to do so because you guys click on articles. You guys are always online and you're watching, coaching searches. Just like I love the Chicago Bears, and the Bears get tied into weird storylines all the time because look, the Bears stink, but they are in the third largest media market in the country. Well, they get tied into things. People want to talk about Justin Fields. It's the same sort of way for Alabama football. Is Tuscaloosa a massive media market? No, but Alabama, the brand of Alabama football, is number one. Number two, big brands in college football up there with Ohio State. Like, if you can say, oh, former Alabama, you saw it with Jamil Burrows, and good luck to Jamil Burrows. This isn't really a knock on Jamil Burrows, but Jamil Burrows transfers out of Miami after just being there a year, right? And do journalists use the Miami photos, use him in photos of Miami gear for their cover? No, they use photos of his time in Alabama because they know if they can put an Alabama player on the cover photo, a lot more people are going to click on it. And so that's kind of what I think is going on here with Mike Florio and his Ryan Grubb is under consideration for the offensive court. Like, is he? Sure, I do believe that. I'm sure that Mike McDaniel has a list, and Ryan Grubb's probably on it. And he and his people are probably talking about all the people on their list. Do I think that he's going to leave Tuscaloosa for the offensive coordinator position at the Seattle Seahawks? I'll just say that would surprise me greatly. That would surprise me. All right, we're going to wrap this up here with one more topic. And reminder, we will be back at 9 p.m. Central Time today. Tonight on all the Facebook channels, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and we're going to put it on BamaCentral's channels as well. You can subscribe to the program if you miss it on those platforms, and also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon, The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. Look, I'm a couple of subscribers away on Spotify from reaching a nice round number. To me, my ADD wants to see that number on a 5 or a 0. So come on, go get you a couple more people subscribing on Spotify to get that nice round number. But let's round this up with Brad Bohannon. I haven't really talked about Coach Bohannon on this show before because by the time I started in May, all that had really dissipated to a degree. You already kind of got Rob Vaughn in place and everything was kind of moving on. But the NCAA has announced suspensions, announced punishments for the former Alabama baseball coach. And then with the announcements, they've announced, they've revealed documents and information from the investigation. And oh my gosh, I thought it was stupid in the spring of last year. It's even dumber now. It's even dumber with the extra added context. Okay, we all knew Coach Bohannon was texting with a gambler in Ohio and basically saying, "Oh yeah, William Hamilton? I think it was William Hamilton is not going to pitch tonight. We're going to scratch a pitcher. We're going to be going with a different guy." You all knew that, right? The gambler allegedly goes to sportsbook in Cincinnati and says, "I want to place $100,000 on college baseball." I want to place $100,000 on LSU. Look, you're beyond dumb. Look, if I've got insider information, if I know, Billy, I don't want to use names because I don't want to implicate anybody that doesn't deserve implication. But if Billy is hurt, or if Billy is sandbagging, or Billy doesn't like his coach, and I know that, and Billy just wants to throw the game, or for whatever reason, I'm not going to, my bank account's a certain number. I'm not going to gamble. I don't know, $100,000 on a college baseball game is just asking for red flags. Okay, so the sports book says we're not going to let you wager $100,000. We're going to let you wager $15,000. 15 is our limit, so that's the number. Okay, take your free $15,000. I mean, not free, but take your $15,000 and run. Run. Don't say anything. Don't wave around your cell phone and saying, I have insider information. I have a sure thing. Because look, the casinos, they want you to play. They absolutely want you to play, but they don't want to lose. Of course, losing and liability is part of it, but why would I'm not going to gamble against you if you say, Joe, I know something you don't know about this game. I have insider information. That's a good reason for me not to gamble with you. That's a good, even if it's a $5 bet, that's a good reason for me to save my $5 and take that to my coffee shop and enjoy my black coffee. Like, why would you do that? Why would you tell the casino, I have insider information. I have a sure thing. That would ruin any motivation to gamble with you. Okay, so that's what he does. But still, Coach Bohannon, this picture is scratched. The text message is revealed. This picture is scratched. We're going with a backup. Hurry and make this wager before I tell LSU. Like, Coach Bo, I'm sorry. Every time I had interactions with you, Coach Bo, very kind person, very nice person. Okay. Was the baseball always great? It was better. It was better than it was, but it wasn't where it needs to be. Okay, so what's happened is this. Coach Bohannon has had his kind of day in the NCAA court, and here's the Luke Holman. Luke Holman. Was the pitcher. Bohannon texted, student athlete is out for sure. Let me know when I can tell LSU. Hurry. Unbelievable. All right, so Coach Bohannon had a 15-year show cause order. Now, look, when this story all came out, we knew, Coach Bo, you're not coaching college baseball again. You're never going to coach college baseball again. You're probably not going to coach high-level baseball ever again. I wouldn't hire you. And so the 15-year show cause is more of a confirmation of, coach is probably not going to be back in college baseball anytime soon. NCAA fined him $5,000. He's on probation for 3 years, and he has a 15-year show cause order. During the show cause order, any NCAA institution that hires Bohannon cannot employ him in an athletics-related position. If Bohannon is employed during the show cause period, he will be suspended for 100% of the baseball regular season for the first 5 seasons of his employment. So why would you hire a baseball coach who can't coach baseball for you for 5 years? There's not going to be any motivation for anybody to give Coach Bohannon a second chance. And while that stinks for Coach Bohannon, absolutely, I want the best things for everybody. I want the best things for you watching the show and listening to the show. And do I feel a little bad for him? Sure, I do, because golly, that stinks. But dude, one of the dumbest. I'm sorry. It's one of the most out there stories. And you could talk about free money. You could talk about the allure of gambling, this, that, and the other. Look, y'all would have gotten away with it. You literally could have gotten away with it. And Coach Bohannon could probably still be the Alabama baseball coach if you just wagered $5,000. Look, if I got a sure thing, I don't know what tax bracket you guys are in, but I'll take a free $5,000 and I'll go eat myself a big old steak and I'll giggle myself to sleep that night because I took the casino for its $5,000 and they just paid for dinner for the rest of the the next couple of months. Like the greed. The greed is just absurd. Oh, I want $100,000. Oh, you're not letting me wager $100,000? Okay, I'll wager $15,000 because that's your limit, but I want to wager on Saturday and Sunday night's game as well. Like, you're literally asking for these red flags. So they talk about, oh, these these wagers were flagged for suspicious activity. Duh. Look, if I'm going to do anything illegal, which I try not to, but if I'm going to do anything illegal, I'm going to try to make sure that I'm driving the speed limit. My headlights are on. The tag on my car is up to date. Like, I'm not going to try to get myself pulled over for other dumb things. It's ridiculous. And so for Neff and for Brad Bohannon, it kind of marks the end of a story. And hopefully for Alabama baseball, it marks the end of a story. Alabama baseball is going to have to take some extra recruiting steps or so. They're going to have to basically let these future recruits know that there's a little bit of probation on for Alabama baseball, and they've got to outline kind of recruiting visits. There's just a couple of logistical steps that Alabama baseball is going to have to take over the next couple of years in recruiting to put this behind them. But for Alabama, for Coach Bohannon, golly, it's the end of an ugly story. I appreciate you commenting, David Newberry, on our program right here on YouTube, and I appreciate David Coddington chiming in as well on Twitter. We're going to wrap it up pretty much right here, but again, I'll be back at 9 o'clock Central Time. I'll be joined by Amari Jefferson, class of 2024 wide receiver, Mr. Football in Tennessee. Look, everybody's excited about Ryan Williams, two-time Mr. Football in Alabama, and you should be, 100% you should be. But you should be getting excited about Amari Jefferson as well. Mr. Football in the state of Tennessee is going to join me tonight at 9 p.m. We're going to put it out on all the social media sites like we usually do, and we'll put it out on BamaCentral just like we do every single show. So for you guys, the listener, the viewer, I appreciate everybody who's liked, subscribed, rated the show on whatever your favorite platform is. I appreciate everybody who's sent me a friend request, gotten the DMs, and talked sports with me at any time. You guys make it so much fun, make this life a whole lot better, and so I appreciate that very, very much. I hope y'all have a great day. I'll be back with you a little bit later tonight talking with Amari Jefferson right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.